they played really hard. They played really well, and I've seen them play really well. And then, normally they don't make shots at the level they did tonight. And I don't think that had anything to do with the loss. It only had to do with the margin of the loss. And they outplayed us, out-toughed us, and they made a lot of shots. And you put all three of those together, that's what led to the outcome.
Did they just play with more energy than you did tonight?
I don't look at our team as being like we were dysfunctional, so I don't want to paint that picture because we weren't. They are very physical and very athletic. And they probably had their pride hurt in the first game because this was as aggressive as I've seen them play. And, they certainly came ready. And I thought their physicality bothered us. No question about it. And in that way, it's a good learning experience. I thought especially our big guys early in the game, and Trey and Tajay in particular. Franco is very physically strong, but I thought the physicality bothered Trey and Tajay a lot. And that'll be a great learning experience for them. In both cases, they just haven't dealt with, that much size and athleticism. Physically, they look like Alabama, when you play them. Now, the difference is they're normally not that skilled. You don't see many games where they shoot the ball like they did tonight. And that's where their Achilles heel can be. And I thought on offense for us, I thought their physicality and their toughness was one part of the story. I thought the other one was we were way too impatient on offense, too many times. Our 18 turnovers was a product of trying to make plays on one or two or three passes too much of the time. And it led to a lot of bad decisions, a lot of bad turnovers. And Taylor was one of them. The guy guarding him, Dante Carruthers, is the best defensive player in our conference, hands down. Elite defensive player, and he plays a lot despite he doesn't shoot the ball very well, but he's great on defense. And, he got after Taylor, and Taylor hit a couple of shots early, but I thought it really sped up his decision-making. And he put his head down a lot and took some tough shots, and he had some tough turnovers, and that'll be a game Taylor can really learn from, because what he wasn't really able to do tonight is what he had been doing a lot in the past, and that's really getting the rest of the guys involved. And that's a growth curve on our part. But I didn't look at it, and I said it to him in the locker room. I've coached teams that are dysfunctional. I've coached my team this year when I felt like we were dysfunctional. Too much, inward thinking, guys worried about themselves. I didn't think that was the case tonight. I just thought we got our butt kicked.
When Hamilton hit that three ball in the second half, bringing up the 11 points, did you just kind of get the sense that they weren't going to miss anything that match tonight?
He's playing personally at an incredibly high level right now. He's playing really, really well, and he's a handful. And we didn't have an answer for him. And I'm going to have to go back and watch it on film in terms of that. It's not like they're doing anything complicated, but we didn't have an answer for him in pick and rolls. And we tried a few different things. And he's playing great. They almost won at Akron. They lost 91-90 at Akron. And then they played Central at home, and they beat him. And if you looked at his specific performance in those two games and then this game, he's on an absolute tear. And he's a problem. He's setting himself up to play this game for a long time.
Moving forward, Akron, can you guys use a loss like this for motivation to play something like that?
I think there's always part of that during the course of the year. If anyone who's played in this game that isn't humbled and a little bit hurt and angry, then you're probably in the wrong line of work, because you should feel that way. So I think there's some of that during every season. But, I think one of the keys for us is to try to be consistent in the way we approach it and not get too high, not get too low. And our guys get a day off tomorrow, which they need. because of our Sunday, Tuesday schedule, they don't get many breaks right now. Their off day is Wednesday, where they got class all day and then study hall at night. So they'll get their first real day off since Christmas, and that'll be good for everybody. And then we'll come back on Sunday, Monday. We'll have 2 days where we can come back, be rested, and really practice the right way, and try to play a very, very good Akron team, obviously, on the road. We have a really hard schedule in February, and we just got to be able to stay with it. Stay with it. Don't lose your mind if you win 2 in a row. Don't lose your mind if you lose a couple. Stay the course. It's a long season. Keep getting better.
Nobody in the MAC has solved Akron yet. What's the specific challenge for you guys?
The one is Isaiah Johnson. I haven't watched him. I've watched him play other people. I haven't really paid attention to them yet. But Isaiah Johnson is, he's as dominant a player in this league as Bonzi, Trent, Anthony Stacy. When you look at what he's doing, Earl Boykins, Zerbiak, he's in that category for what he's doing, statistically speaking, how much he changes the game. And he's every bit as dominant as all those guys were in college. I'm not saying he'll be the pro as some of them were. And so it stems around him, how you're able to handle. They got good players around him too, but you either double him, he's a great passer, or you don't double him, and those are 2 really, really, really bad choices.
Defensively for you guys tonight, what did you think gave you guys the most problems on that end?
There's so many I couldn't put them in a tie. There was turnovers that led to layups. That was where it started. It was 13 offensive rebounds, 40% of their misses back when they did miss. It was those 2. And then, I could call it out of their pick and rolls, but what they were really doing is they hurt us in their pick and rolls. But it really wasn't that. It was when they threw the ball to the wing, they were ripping and going by us. They were really what I would call running through the pass a lot. And that's the thing that bothered me the most, or that I thought was the most disruptive, was their constant ability to drive the ball to the rim. That, I think, was much more disturbing for me than the threes that they shot. There were a couple threes that they hit that I would have looked at and said, hey, we're not supposed to guard it that way, or that was way too easy. But for the most part, you can't take away everything. And they're shooting 29% from 3 on the season. Coming into tonight, 29.5 or whatever it is. And there's C.J. Massenberg and Willie Connor. Those guys, historically speaking, you have to respect their ability to shoot the basketball. But some of them, it just happens.
You talk about them working inside so easily. Does that just go back to the physicality? You guys just playing stronger inside?
Yeah, and then we had a hard time on Blake Hamilton with the pick and rolls, and then whichever way we tried to do it, If we tried to hard hedge, then he was trying to pick us apart with this is going to get technical, but if we tried to really be aggressive in the pick and roll, he tried to really hurt us as a passer, had 8 assists. And if we tried to, protect our guys on the wing and make him score over the bigs, he was able to do that too. And, he's playing at a really high level. And we didn't have an answer for him. And the other thing that we could have done was hard for us to do because Franco had 4 fouls. But we could have used Franco and switched them. And there was a lot of reasons why that would have made sense based on the way the game was going. But Franco picked up back-to-back, got the charge, and then he got one right after. He went from 1 foul to 3 like that. And then he picked up his 4th. And then we decided not to do it because we would have put him in position to foul out too quickly in there.
How's it for Iron Man? What does that mean in his play? Because going forward, he's averaging about 3 more points in the last 8 games.
He's much more assertive right now in offense, which is a good thing. He's playing well. And this game was set up for him because they started the game with Blake Hamilton defending him at the 4. And that's why Franco scored the points that he did. And then after that first 4-minute war, they didn't do that the rest of the game. And I think he had 9 or 11 points, I think, already at that point. And the rest of his points didn't come that way. They came on drives because they were so pressure-oriented that once we got the ball moved around a little bit, we were able to drive the ball to the rim. But the problem was, too many times we drove on one pass or no passes or two passes, and once we connected on a few, we were fine. And we were very, very impatient on offense tonight and very ineffective. And this is our worst offensive game we've had in a long time.
Coach, I know Franco, like you said, was doing so much early that it might have affected this a little bit, but nobody else really produced. But he didn't have any bench points in the first half. Did that play into this offensive performance, just maybe get a little stale later on once Franco ran into foul trouble?
I don't know. I mean, we struggled. You look at our wings, we really struggled in a lot of different areas. I thought, we had a little fool's gold in the first 6 or 7 minutes of the game because Blake Hamilton was guarding Franco. That was not only responsible for Franco having 8 or 9 points, but Taylor's 3 was on the same, doubling down on it. And then as things got harder, we didn't respond. When things got harder, we weren't any less patient. We weren't more patient, which we needed to be. It was easy in the first couple minutes because they had bad matchups. But after that, we had to earn them in different ways, and we weren't able to do it, and then we weren't able to get into our transition game very much because we were taking the ball out of the net. Go ahead.
So just when you saw that matchup with Hamilton, when you mentioned it a couple times, were you immediately like, we need to get Franco the ball?
Yeah. When we saw that, that's what we wanted to make sure that we went at him right away. Both, it was both to score, but we really would have loved to put fouls on him too. And we weren't able to do that, but we were able to score a lot. And then after that, every time they never did it again while Franco was in the game. They tried to do it a couple times when he came out. But, that was what we wanted to do to start the game. And because they don't play that lineup that much. They just start it, and then they play it about 10 minutes a game. And go ahead. No, I'm done.
Francis has always been one of your better shooters, but I think coming in tonight, he was shooting like 28% from 3. Matt playing, he's 0 for 2 tonight. Do you have a sense for what he's kind of going through right now?
Yeah, I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. He's not today, he really didn't play well. His game from top to bottom, this was certainly not one of his better games. But I think that every player goes through it at times. He's a career 40% 3-point shooter since he's been here, and I think he's getting into that point now, which is a hard place where he's starting to second guess. He can miss a good one, and then turn down a good one, and then take a tough one, and it's just part of it. There's no easy answer for a guy going through a shooting slump. He's just got to stay with it, keep taking good shots, and trust in that if he's a really good shooter, his practice percentage is no different than it was the first 2 years. It's the same. It's something he's just got to work through, and Ryan did, all through the non-conference. But we're not shooting the ball near as well as we would have this time a year ago. We're much better on offense as a whole. But Ryan, Francis in particular, and Jeremy, those guys are not. Jeremy's about the same, Sean's about the same, but Ryan and Francis are not shooting the ball near as well as they would have a year ago, and hopefully that'll work itself out here.
You talked a little bit about shot selection, with Francis maybe forcing some. Do you worry a lot about that, or do you count on a guy, a seasoned guy to figure that out?
He's got to figure it out, but you know how that when you're making decisions in the game, they're real time. They're so easy for me or you or the fans or anyone to look at and say, what was he thinking? That's a bad shot. Well, they're making that decision. It's 1/2 of 1/10 of a second is the difference between it being a good shot and a bad shot. So it's not that easy. It's easy to see Taylor took a lot of tough shots tonight, But in the moment, you don't always know, and you got to figure it out. I just got to, what we try to do with Francis is just show him the moments where he's second-guessing himself, and just try to get him thinking about shooting great shots. That's the goal. The goal is not to make shots or miss shots. The goal is to try to get 4 or 5 really good ones off in the course of the game and try to take the pressure off of making them.
Coach, tonight's loss was the worst home loss since February of 2013. How do you just try to move on from this and put all your focus on Akron and just learn from this match and go forward?
Just watch it on film and be honest, about it, and just see what happened. I think it's the one good thing for us is we beat this team by 15. It's hard to imagine watching it tonight, but we beat them by 15 on the road at their place. We certainly know we're much more capable. And but just got to deal with it. Don't run from it. Don't make excuses. Just learn from it. And we don't have any time to feel for any pity parties because our schedule coming up is really, really, really hard. So we have to make sure we're just moving on to the next game.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for coming out.
Yep. Thanks,
Good luck
guys.
Tuesday night.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys.